Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome back to F1 in Focus. If you are unfamiliar with the show, we are the only Formula One podcast where a Lewis and Max fan can very much get along in the wonderful world of Formula One and actually stay friendly during the season. My name is John. I'll be your host today, and I am joined by the man with the best hair in the business. And I don't know if he fell asleep during Saturday's debut Grand Prix. So let's start with that. It's none other than James Hazel.
I mean, if I fell asleep during the race, I'm wide awake for everything that's currently going on in Formula One right now. What is this?
It's the only reason they can't keep us on board, mate. So we are trying a new format, James, this year, just to make sure our podcasts don't last 2 hours.
Yeah.
And if you do want them to last 2 hours, leave us a message because then we'll need some financial support. But James, let's just first talk about the race because there's so much going on. Let's talk about the race first.
Yeah.
It was a historical Grand Prix, a tremendous fight for P1 for one corner, DRS on lap 1 or after lap 1, which makes a world of a difference. It actually just made sure the DRS train started the lap early, or even people couldn't drive away. So the one that did just flew away. It's an awesome track, but we did not get any crashes. We did not got any DNFs. The most exciting thing that happened was Sargent's, overheating and coming back on track.
Yeah. I opened WhatsApp because you and I obviously chat during the race on WhatsApp and stuff. And I had a feeling you were getting a bit excited about your prediction for Sargent being the first DNF. And
Yes. Well,
you were about to type, "There's my point" or something. I'm sure you were. And then
you saw John is typing.
And then he suddenly started moving again. And he just decided, he was like, hang on a minute. John predicted I wouldn't finish. No, I can't be having that. Do anything in my power to get this car moving again. Yeah.
And he did. And he did.
He did, yeah.
And he finished.
And he finished dead last.
With 1.5 minutes or something behind the number 19, I think.
He was lapped twice, and I'm pretty sure he was the only car to be lapped twice. I'll be 2 laps down, yeah. Yeah, the DRS thing didn't really seem to have an impact. Maybe that'll help at other tracks. I don't know.
It's not an easy track to overtake. This is a pretty good track to overtake, but I think unfortunate here what happened is they were so close together that you just got a DRS train, which is so hard to escape from. And you saw that when the Ferraris overtook each other, suddenly they were back at Perez. Perez it just kept everyone together, which is something we, of course, also want. Mm-hmm. But there was one that just went off into the sunset.
Yeah. Just another day in the office for Max.
Just another day, yeah. So Max won. Like we said last week, we should start this podcast with two things we're going to focus on. We're looking back on our predictions and give a quick summary of the race. But basically, Max Verstappen picked up where he left off in 23. Come on, a victory in the season opening. There were highs for others too, but some will be keen to put the weekend behind them. I think winner Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc was a little bit unlucky with a broken car very early on. Although he oozes talent because it's pretty impressive how he still kept in a fighting position during the race with a car that just kept steering to the right.
Yeah, it seemed to be. It's almost like he just adapted to the car as the race went on a bit, which you'd kind of imagine he would.
It's like me cycling on my old broken bike, which the steer just tilts. I just steer on the other side, so I can keep straight and just lean a little bit over.
It was exactly like that, John.
Except down with 300 kph, but I'm doing that with 3.
Just at like 200 miles an hour rather than 20.
Well, if that.
But yeah, it was pretty impressive knowing what the problem. Well, we're sort of knowing what the problem was. I don't think we know exactly what it was, but we know he had some sort of brake issue as well. There was braking more to one side than the other, and there was 100 degrees difference between the two brakes apparently at the front.
Yeah, that'll drag your car to that side.
Yeah. So that kind of explains why he kept locking up one side and he kept kind of running a bit wide on certain corners. He seemed to kind of get it under control, but obviously he's never going to be able to go as fast as he would in a car that's working perfectly.
Which was
He's got a problem like that.
yeah,
So
which was
it
a shame.
was an impressive drive.
Definitely, I think Sainz had an impressive drive. We will talk about probably Alpine later, but they were the losers of the weekend.
Yeah.
I think Williams didn't do so well either. Did way worse than we expected, and even Sargent outperformed himself by at least finishing.
Yep.
But both a lap down, which was disappointing.
Yeah.
Can we say that Haas were also winners this weekend?
I'd consider Haas to be a winner this weekend, yeah. Nico Hulkenberg had obviously an amazing qualifying.
But unlucky, let's say
Yeah.
that.
Not ideal in the race. And generally, who was it who clipped near the start? There was a bit of contact, wasn't there? Who was that? It was with Stroll, wasn't it?
Of course, it was Stroll. It was either Stroll or Ocon. So no, it was Stroll.
Yeah, was that was one of the Haas, wasn't it? That was involved in that, and Bottas, wasn't it? Yeah. Was that Hulkenberg?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they seem to be potentially like back of the midfield. If there is a back of the midfield, it's kind of hard to judge, really.
I'm gonna hold my thoughts on that one, but I think they did well this weekend.
Yeah, they did pretty well. Williams quite disappointing. I'd have expected Albon, or I would have hoped to have seen Albon at least in the Williams to be closer to the points. Aston Martin, I don't really know how to review Aston. Slightly better than we were anticipating, but really probably still not quite good enough compared to how they started last season.
It's a hard track to actually say where the teams and the drivers are exactly.
Yeah.
So it's sort
Even
of an
the next
outlier
race
track,
is the same, yeah.
I think Mercedes. I think we were really hyped going in the weekend.
Yeah.
I think I should scar them on the losers this weekend, unfortunately, after the race.
You were a bit down on them. You didn't think they looked very good in testing, did you? I think they're about where I expected them to be, which is kind of joint third fastest with McLaren. I'm pretty sure I said that last weekend.
Here's my issue: why I think it's not going to happen for them. This was an evening / night race. It was 17 degrees Celsius on track, and they had cooling issues with both of the cars.
Well, it wasn't just Mercedes. It was
Williams as well. And I think if you get cooling issues with a car,
but they closed up some cooling vents that they had open during FP2 when they were looking pretty good in FP2. So I think they made a bad step from. It was a different day, was it? So it's Thursday afternoon going into Friday afternoon and qualifying. I think they just made a mistake there, and then because they'd have had to close the vents or close up the cooling on Friday for qualifying because of Pat Fermi.
Yeah, but that's I think that shows there's not much power, or you call it there's not much performance over in this car. I think they are on peak performance, and that just isn't good enough.
Maybe I don't know. They were pretty high on the speed traps on Friday, and that Thursday.
Yeah,
so the being a day out when they had the vents open. I think they just gambled too hard in the wrong direction, closing up the car a bit too much for a bit more performance. Because I mean, obviously, practice is one thing compared to qualifying and the race, and Red Bull quite clearly were not showing their full hand until
neither did
qualifying day. But I don't think it's as bad for Mercedes as it looked. I think if they weren't having to nurse the kind of lift and coast thing, obviously, if you've got more cooling, you've got a little bit more drag. But on the flip side of that, when you've got a little bit more drag, but you don't have to do the lifting and coasting and nursing the car's temperature. So I think without that overheating issue and just opening up the cooling a bit, I think they probably would have been finishing about where they should be, which is third fastest team.
57.
I think they would have finished ahead of the McLarens without the cooling issue. Well,
but this is a track where normal McLaren is really bad, and I would say McLaren did really well on this track actually, which shows they're better than I expected them to be.
I mean, normally, but also, the cars all seem to be quite different this year. All of them, literally, because Red Bull have just gone in a completely different direction, and then all the other teams have gone in Red Bull's previous direction. So, I think I get what you're saying, like historically, but I don't know. Obviously, we need a few more races to properly judge. But
yeah, we'll see in the next predictions. Because who am I to say anything if I look at the predictions we made?
Yeah,
I didn't quite start out yet right with me saying, well, I'll do the opposite of you just to make it exciting. It was the worst call I could make.
What we should have done is we should have alternated who answered first rather than you just leaving me to answer first. Because then I could just pick the obvious choice and you have to go in the other direction.
That's definitely what we have to do today. And thank you for being so sportsmanship about it, and not just laughing at my poor predictions.
Now let's keep it fair.
Let's dive into the points first, and then we dive into our focus points. You predicted Max Verstappen for pole. I said Carlos Sainz. I did not. I honestly did not expect a Red Bull pole. So well done for you. 1 point for you.
And Ferrari had it in them to get pole. Leclerc's Q2 time was faster than Verstappen's Q3 time. Now,
and so and they
conditions
look really
changed
good.
between. Like temperature would have dropped slightly, but Ferrari were fast.
So I expect Ferrari. So 1 point for you, my friend.
Yep.
I got a point as well because we both predicted Max to win the race.
Yep.
So that's 2 points for us.
Mm-hmm.
The didn't finishers. You said Gasly. I said Yuki. Well, nobody did not finish.
I saw an interesting fact about that. That was apparently the first race in F1 history to not have a DNF in the first race.
Yeah, this was the first season opener that did not have a DNF.
Yeah.
Ever. Yeah. Which brings us to our bonus questions. That was the number of DNFs. You said 3. And I said, let's do 4. It's a season opener. They'll break down anyways. Which means you got a point and I got nothing.
Yep.
The random question says, I said Ocon and Gasly would crash. No bonus point for me there. You said Williams is faster than Aston Martin, which is also no points for you there.
Oh dear. Got that wrong.
So 1 point for you for the poll. We both get a point for Max winning. And you get 1 point for the bonus question number of DNFs. That means you get 3 points to start off with. And I get 1. So 3 versus 1 after a race. 1.
Yep.
Need to get better. But we're done. You're in the lead now.
I'll take that for now.
Definitely. You can start us with naming what is your focus point of today's show. And there's so much to discuss. So maybe before we take a deep dive into things, should we quickly discuss how we are going to, how we think best to treat all the politics and things going around? We feel that we're going to do it.
I think if it's not verified, it's difficult to comment on. And I think the other problem at the moment is that, I mean, I was just saying to you before the start of the show, like I can't remember a day or even a period in Formula One like we've had today or for the last few weeks. It's just insane. I'd say I've been following Formula One or a fan of Formula One since I was a child in the 80s, but obviously I wouldn't have been following the politics and stuff at that age. I was just car goes fast.
Wasn't this open either, though.
So yeah, I just like to tune in and watch the fast cars go fast. Maybe sort of during the mid-90s was probably around the time when I would have started having a bit more of an interest outside of the racing. There was probably a period during the early 2000s where I was not following it quite as closely. But I mean, there was a lot of potential controversy during Bernie Ecclestone's kind of running of the show, and Max Mosley has been involved in his role. But I can't think of anything quite like this. Certainly, like, there's no point in us even commenting right now, because by the time people are listening to this,
That
like
might have
tomorrow,
changed, yeah.
things will have changed. Like, everything's just moving so fast. Like, even in an hour, stuff's changing. All we do know at the moment is there's allegations of potential interfering with race results. Obviously, there's stuff going on with Christian Horner, which I don't really want to touch on too much, because even though there's been some sort of leak, that's not really verified. So I think the one thing we probably could both agree on, or certainly I would think, is that it's all just bad for the sport.
Yeah.
It's all the wrong kind of press for the sport. We don't want to be. I mean, I'm not saying we ignore it if any of this is true, and I would like there to be some openness around this and for it to be kind of finalised one way or another properly. And if something bad has happened anywhere in any way, then I think that needs a proper looking at, and I don't necessarily trust an internal process for that, because ultimately businesses look after themselves more than an employee. So yeah, I'm not saying sweep it under the rug. What I'm saying is that I prefer Formula One to be a positive thing and not all of this negativity that's around it at the moment. Yeah.
My issue is the politics around it.
Yeah.
I think it needs a clear investigation. I agree. We don't know. I don't know how reliable the investigation was been, but it also starts to look like smear politics. And I don't like that part either. So if he did something wrong, sure, punish him for it, right? Or it should be consequences. 100% agree with that. The fact is that it's not proven officially, and everyone's making assumptions, and people are wanting off with his head before, and that's what I'm like. I want all that part out of the, like, I don't. If a team manager is asked the question, I don't like the fact that they say that it should be more investigated, should be looked into. We all know, but we can't really say anything. Man. And I know it's a cutthroat business, but that just feels like gossip on a schoolyard more than it's actually something to do with the main issue that's on the table.
And this is why I think it should be more open. And I know it's been treated as like an internal thing, and then it's private and internal. But I at this point, I think it's bigger than the team. Like, this is affecting the sport, and this is why I think that there should be something done where there's a definitive, actually, nothing happened and there's nothing to investigate, and that's fine, and clear it out one way or another, but in an open way that can't be left for people to kind of think one way or the another, and then for leaked stuff to appear and that to potentially sway people and things like that. It's all just very messy at the moment, and I thought that Formula One was kind of done with this sort of thing.
Stakes are also high, and that's what
Bernie being gone. Yeah.
I do get why they can't, like, publicly show everyone the info, though, right? I mean,
absolutely, you can't do that. But
people ask for that. I don't think that's.
I think this needs to be, now that it's affecting the sport as in the way that it is. I think this needs to be looked at beyond the way that Red Bull have done it internally. Because the other thing as well is Red. I mean, I know you're a fan of Red Bull, and I don't want to kind of get into a kind of an argument over this or kind of stick on this point because we've got plenty of
There
other
goes
things
the
to talk
show.
about.
The only podcast where they can get along.
But
Episode 2, there we go.
Yeah, and we're done. New intro needed. No, it's just that Red Bull can be quite good at spinning things. An example of that for me is the overspend and talking about, the first thing they did was tell everybody, oh, it was because we overspent on food. It was the catering. And everyone stuck to that. And there's lots of Red Bull fans defending them saying, well, yeah, but they didn't overspend on development. They overspent on food. But the argument against that is it's a budget, and a budget's for everything. Like if you go to the supermarket with £50, or told you can only spend £50, and you come back having spent £55,
I mean,
you can't say I went over budget because of this one thing. Well, no, your budget was.
We talked about that topic for ages last year. So
sorry,
this
is just me talking about this.
I do agree that Red Bull is very good of spinning things, but
yeah,
I mean
that's ultimately my point.
Toto is last week saying, for example, I want to get into politics, that we need to sell the second Red Bull team because ownership has to get back into different hands. While he's the one that has half of the drivers signed on his with him personally, and has a big stake in Formula One itself.
Yeah, there's a massive problem. There is a massive problem in Formula One. There's a massive problem with conflict of interest,
and that I think shows me like that issue. But coming back on this, we don't agree on the penalty. I am of course a Max fan first, right? Honestly, is there? I was
which penalty are we talking about?
Last year, sorry, with the Red Bull budget cap.
I don't care about that. I think what I'm saying is that it's just the way they span it. So
it's like they did the rebel thingy. I mean, they made
something wrong. They deserve punishment. They got punishment, but they sell it in such a way that it then becomes easy for their fans to, or anyone to come in and defend it. By saying, "Oh, we only overspent on catering," and then everyone picks up and runs with that. And that's what seems to be happening at the moment with the independent barrister and internal investigation. And people are kind of, you go on Reddit or wherever, social media, and you see people start talking about it like it was an actual legal thing that happened, and it wasn't a legal thing that happened. It wasn't like it was in court or anything. This was literally someone had a look at it, and then Red Bull decided, we're not doing anything with it. Who knows who was swayed in what way, or whether there was anything that even needed swaying? We don't know. That's what I mean. That's the problem, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's it. So our official statement is we'll have a statement and definitely have some opinions when we know things for sure.
I think it just needs to carry on developing. Really, I mean, it already is a mess at the moment, and we've already had probably a 5 or 10 minute discussion around it already at this point.
Exactly. So I do agree we have to park it there, but we'll be monitoring it closely. And also, I don't want to see Horner holding hands with his wife coming on the track. That's a bit too much theater. But let's not go there.
No, let's just.
I put it out there. I'm a big Red Bull fan. I'm a big Max fan, 100%. To be fair, before Max drove, I was a big McLaren Mercedes fan. I've got caps with Raikkonen and Hakkinen for years in my closet. So I'm more of a support a driver than support a team, but I do like Red Bull, usually what they do. So, James,
yes,
your focus point.
Well, my focus.
So for everyone listening, we do one topic each. Maybe even just do one topic at this pace.
I struggle to find one because of everything that is happening.
I got so much. I
struggled to find one, but I struggled to think of one because of what was happening. But then we had a little chat before we started, and we came up with probably a couple of things to cover. So I'll say Alpine to start off with, because I think the next one's better to have last anyway. If we're going to go with where we were kind of talking earlier, so Alpine. it's worse than we feared. I mean, I had them as probably being the team. If a team was to sell this year, I predicted we both predicted that a team would end up being sold this year, and I predicted it would be Alpine. And I'm feeling pretty confident right now because Alpine look garbage.
I think you might get 25 bonus points for that one.
Yeah. I mean, there's already some turmoil there in that, I've had a couple of pretty senior members of the team resign. That apparently happened before the race even started. That was confirmed today as we're recording, which is a Monday. So there's been a bit of a reshuffle or a bit of restructuring going on because of people leaving, but I don't think they have actually quite left. I think they are still working for the team, but effectively working their notice. That might have changed because everything's changing very quickly today. I mean, you can read something an hour ago and it's already out of date. It's insane. But yeah, Alpine, let's just talk about the race. They were slow.
Race. They started on the back row.
Qualifying was atrocious.
I think they have to make really hard to make the 107% through.
Yep.
It was awful.
Ocon at the end of qualifying on the radio, don't worry guys, I'm with you. We'll get through this sort of attitude. That felt very kind of, don't forget I'm a Mercedes driver, I'm a team player kind of thing. That felt very PR to me.
Toto, do you hear this?
Yeah. Yeah, they're just slow. They were the stewards or race direction, whoever it would have been, it sounded like they were going to be quite forceful about the 107% rule.
Yeah,
going into this Grand Prix. And
I think it's fair though.
I think it is fair because what's the point in having that rule if you're just never going to enforce it? And it would be sad to see cars not make it onto the grid because they can't, they're not fast enough. But either the rule's there or it's not. There's no point in having the rule and then saying, well, yeah, okay, we'll let you in. Which, they used to do with like ART and stuff like that in the past. So, or Manor back in the day.
Now, do we need to explain, do you think, quickly what 107% rule is?
Just 107% of the fastest qualifying time. Is that even in Q3?
The first phase of qualifying, Q1.
It's just for Q1, is it? Yeah, that's the bit I couldn't quite remember. Yeah, so it's you've got to be within 107% of the fastest lap during that session.
Yes, and why is it?
So that we don't have cars that are too slow on the circuit, because slow cars are potentially dangerous.
I couldn't say it better myself. I'm actually having the rules in front of me, and it says the same thing, but then in 90 pages. So.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of summarised it a little bit there. No, I'm not quoting the rule book, but that's broadly what they're getting at.
No, it's good. So, for example, if a fast Q1 lap time is 100 seconds, you have to do it within 107 seconds to guarantee a race start.
Exactly.
In Q1.
Yeah.
And I was sort of worried they might not even make that this year.
Yeah, but then actually, when you look at qualifying, actually, it was pretty close for the entire field, even including the Alpines. Was it like 1.5 seconds split the entire field?
True. But then again, that's Q1, eh?
Yeah.
If they go all out in Q1, they halved. I think at least 4 cars wouldn't start.
Yeah. I mean, there was quite the discrepancy between qualifying and race day as well, pace wise.
Yeah. But I want to talk about that Alpine for a second, though.
Yes.
Because it's one of the most beautiful cars in it currently. You know why. So? You know why it has one of the best liveries without all the blacks in it.
Oh, just because it's got some paint on it. That's why you like it.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of the cars that has paint.
I was trying to figure out if you were being genuine there because I'm
genuine. I like pink cars. Okay. Yeah, I like pink cars. My girls like, that sounds really big. My daughters like pink cars as well. It's the pink car. It's back. And I'm like, yeah, you can definitely see it because, well, it's not hard to follow. It doesn't go very fast.
There's that as well. Yeah,
but no, I like the fact they got the front rims in blue, the back rims in pink. It's actually pretty. I think it's pretty designed, but it is that way. It has all the paint on it because it's so severely overweight. Removing the paint doesn't do anything for it.
That seems to be the case, doesn't it? That's certainly what the thinking is in the paddock.
Gasly says it's overweight and underpowered.
Yeah,
it's like at least 15 horsepower over anyone else.
Yeah,
that means that's not going to get any better this year, man.
No. What do you do during an engine freeze?
Yeah.
They're a bit stuffed. I mean, maybe the weight thing, they might be able to shed some weight, and maybe with shedding some weight, they might be able to not be last. I don't know how.
I don't think so, actually. Like, the only positive thing, they didn't have any cooling problems.
Yeah.
But they were so slow, I would be very worried if they had cooling problems.
Same. Yeah. I think more likely is the engine's going to suffer with all that strain from trying to move such a heavy car around. It's not going to overheat. It's just going to be overstrained.
I'm going to get back into my bike analogies here, but it feels like me on a racing bike. I mean, I can wear a pretty cool suit. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that Renault engine is going to be like your thighs after you've been pedaling.
Exactly. Thank you so much for this one. You just had to go a little bit extra there. Yeah,
I did. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Well, takes me into my topic, because for cycling we need helmets as well.
That was the highlight of the Grand Prix for me. Go on, carry on.
It was after the race. Seriously, it's going to be a recurring topic though, but this one is going to be about the racing bulls, the V-Carb cars. Last week when we did the prediction, I said I can see tension rising in, well, of course in Renault, but nobody cares if they get 19 or 18. But we said it's going to be a weird season for Ferrari with Sainz and Leclerc. Well, that definitely showed. They gave us a half an inch when overtaking each other or something. And no team orders, so that's going to be tricky during the year, I'm afraid. Well, Mercedes didn't have the chance, so that helps a lot, I think. We got Piastri and Norris duking it out in the first couple of laps, inches apart, well driven by both. But that could have ended in tears. But then we have Yuki, we have Daniel Rick, and they were 13 and 14, if I'm not mistaken. Daniel was on the softs in 14th, and Yuki were on the hards on 13th. And in front of them, fear not, Kevin Magnussen was there.
Yeah.
And Magnussen isn't an easy driver to overtake.
He's not.
He was doing a terrific race, so hats off to Kevin Magnussen. And what happened was so insane. I expected them to have a little bit of a fight, but leave it be because there's no points for grabbing. The V-Carb team thought it was a good idea to say, Yuki, move over, give Daniel a shot. Which, actually looking at, it was 4 laps to go, I think. And he's on fresh soft. Why not? And in the end, you can even switch back around if you need it, right?
Yeah.
Yuki said, no way. And not only did he say no way, but he didn't do it either until almost 2 laps later. That was a great start. So Daniel was like, I'm not even going to discuss this. Yuki said, I'm not going to wait. Why now? Why not? I'm in a fight. Then they passed each other, and Yuki kept saying, one some of the most beautiful board radios I've heard. Oh, definitely this season, because we didn't hear any. But he said, he's not actually fast. He's not very fast. He's very slow. Thank you, guys. I remember this. But then, James, the race ended. And this is always better with your voice. What happened there, my friend? The race ended. Daniel did not have to give position back. So they finished 13th for Daniel, 14th for Yuki. And then what?
First of all, I don't understand why they did that. Why not just do the classic, let Ricciardo have a go. If he can't get past, he'll switch back.
Probably because it's not on the points and who cares.
Well, yeah, there is that, but you're talking about Yuki Tsunoda. Like he gets angry very easily. I don't know how they didn't predict this.
Or did they?
Well, maybe they did. Yeah, I mean, we're getting into conspiracy theories now. Wow.
Next episode, I'm going to sit here with my tinfoil hat, man.
You completely thrown me there. I was going to say, yeah, he obviously he's got a bit of a temper. They surely would have known.
I love it, a nice way to put it.
They would have known that he wouldn't be happy about being asked to switch positions when he was clearly kind of at least trying. He wasn't just sat there following Magnussen. You know, he was trying to pressure Magnussen, and it was difficult because, like you said, Magnussen's a difficult guy to pass. The RB doesn't look to quite be as fast as everyone was scared it would be.
Weird track, just putting out there.
Again, yeah, there's caveats to that. It could be different at other tracks. And yeah, it doesn't matter there's not for points. It's just about being fair within the team because, there might be a situation where it is for points and you need both drivers on side for what's best for the team in that situation. And all they've done is create immediately race one a problem.
23 to go.
Yeah, because then after the race, obviously, this is what you originally asked. Yuki dive bombs down the inside of Ricciardo on the cooldown lap, then comes steaming down the side of him, very, very close to each other. Now, to be fair, Ricciardo wasn't really leaving much space on the edge of the track, and Tsunoda was just trying to get on the track and get past him, and they were clearly quite heated. And I can't quote exactly what Ricciardo said because I haven't got the quote in front of me, but something along the lines of, "I'll leave it.
What a helmet.
The guy's a helmet," or something like that. And that was the highlight for me. Just calling somebody a helmet. Like, I love it. I'm here for it.
But here we go. Both are up for a possible Red Bull position, right?
That's what they're fighting for. That's
if Perez fails again, who did excellent this week, so hats off, well done. But if Perez fails this year, one of them should probably get the seat, right, for Red Bull.
Yes.
Most likely Daniel Rick, of course, but hey, Yuki is fighting for that as well. Let's put it like that.
Yeah.
The last thing you do is show the team that you can't be cool-headed or can't be a team player when you want to go for a seat next to Max, almost 4-time world champion.
Yep. And where you'll be asked to move over and you'll be asked to play the team game, you'll be given the weaker strategy to help defend Max potentially. You know what you're stepping into, you know what's coming up if that's where you're headed. This is the year when Yuki needs to just rein it all in and just kind of just show a level of maturity that he hasn't shown so far. And I like the guy as a racer. I think he's like somebody being quite fierce and hot-headed can make for a good racer, but I think he does this too often. He just kind of explodes and sort of creates an issue and a tension in the team.
Which sounds like something that Red Bull's doing as well, though. So.
Yeah, to be fair, he might be a perfect fit, depending on which side of a potential internal struggle he's on. I don't know.
But I think that's one of the issues with that. Yeah. The second thing is, if you need to be like after the race, he gets asked about it, and Daniel gets asked about it. Yuki's still angry, saying to the press, "It wasn't fair, blah blah blah. It wasn't fair. What's he doing?" Then out of the car comes Danny Rick, puts his helmet on, puts up his big Australian smile. People come towards him and say, "What happened there?" It's Yuki. He's probably a bit angry, but once we look back at it, you probably understand it should be all right. Oh, 2 over Daniel. Well done, Yuki. You just tossed this away yourself, and you won't win the PR battle, and you're not winning it on track like this either.
And I think...
And he was winning on track, just putting it out there on quality itself.
I kind of thought this last year as well, to be honest, when, it seemed like there's potential for Perez to leave early, and obviously that's not happening, and they're going to wait until his contract's up, which is at the end of this year, unless something dramatic happens later on this year. And who knows, based on how this year's already going. But it seems unlikely that Yuki Tsunoda makes it into a Red Bull racing car. Just because he's not fit. He's not. He might have some speed. I don't think he's quite fast enough to be in a top team. I think he's a midfield driver, to be honest. But his attitude is going to be his undoing.
He has too
issues.
much of what Stroll lacks.
Yeah, yeah. He actually has some passion. Yeah, well, Lance Stroll. Well, occasionally he gets a little bit angry on the radio, but normally it's when he thinks he's in danger because he's sat on the straight in Baku with a flat tire and red flag, get me out of here. I mean, to be fair,
that was
I think everyone would be quite scared in that situation because they're doing over 200 miles an hour down that straight, and he's a sitting duck. But no, Lance doesn't seem to get he doesn't seem to get particularly fired up about anything, does he? Unless he's trying to defend himself and blame somebody else for something that he quite clearly did, and then he'll maybe kind of
definitely. The reason I brought the topic on is because it did show this weekend. I think Max is the one to beat, and honestly, I want to highlight something about Max in a minute. But I think if this keeps on. He said in an interview in the Dutch press, how much race do you think you win? And he says, I would predict 12. If he's already saying I predict 12, he might just win 20 plus.
I think Red Bull will clean sweep this season, I think.
I don't think so, because I also made 25-point bets. 4 teams will win it. So, but
yeah, but I thought or hoped that 3 teams would potentially win. I think based on this weekend, I don't think that's happening.
I think the tire wear on Red Bull was so good.
Sorry about that. Slight interruption. Yeah. Hopefully a decent edit from John there. Slight technical issue.
Definitely. So if you don't know this, it's good. Else, blame James.
So I was trying to talk about the Red Bull because we were talking about.
We said it's just even better than before.
Tire wear is very good, and it's like last year. Like at least it seems this way. And again, Bahrain's a bit of an odd track, but it's also one of the most abrasive tracks on the calendar, isn't it?
Yeah,
tire wear, and that is the one thing that Red Bull mastered.
Not the one thing.
Well, it's not the one thing, but it's one of the things. It's certainly one of the better things they did last year, I would say, compared to all the other teams, and that was that they could just make tires just last forever. No other team, no other team could do that the way that Red Bull could.
True. Knock on wood, though, reliability has been terrific as well last year.
Yeah.
So almost no penalties, only strategic goals.
Yeah. It looks like they've got that again. It's like last year. Like they don't seem to have a weakness again.
McLaren already on the second gearbox. So
gearbox and was it battery?
But that's a problem. I wanted to highlight, because if you're new to F1, or even if you're not new to F1, this might feel like it's going to be a snooze fest. We got 24 boring races, and yes, this was not an interesting race, and especially not for the diehard fans. But I think we can call ourselves diehards, and we still thought it wasn't a great race, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Luckily, you agree on me there, so it'll be weird intro to my story. But there were things which I really, really enjoyed and appreciated. One of them was the team battles we just discussed. The other one was, and I'm going to sound like a Max Verstappen fanboy, which of course I am in a way, but the consistency of not only the tire wear, but also the way Max can speed up on worn tires. So I made a list for the first stint, Verstappen versus Russell, right? From lap 2 until lap 15 when Max came in. So George had to pit on lap 10.
Yep.
and Max pitted on lap 15 on the same tires, right? Number 1 and 2, George was super fast. But hey, lap 2, a 36.2 for Max, 36.6 for Russell. 36.7 versus 36.4, so Russell was gaining. 36.6 versus 37.7, that's 1 second by. 37.1, 38.1, another 1 second off.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 37.0, 37.7, 37.0, 38.0, 37.0, 37.8, 37.2, 37.7, 36.9 versus a 37.8. Then Max or George had to come in, and Max did a 37.0, 37.0, 37.0, 37.0, 37.1,
Yeah.
and went in. Between lap 2 and lap 15, there was no more than 0.063 seconds between Max's fastest and slowest first sector. So his first sector was almost every single lap identical. It's like a metronome. So not only did the tires last longer, but he was still faster on the tire than anyone else, and also consistent, like almost identical. So even though it might look boring and stable, best car, etc., I was looking at those numbers, and I'm glad I know, like everyone else now, like with the lists are now everywhere, I think. But the numbers with that show to consider, that's something we really appreciate. Like in 10 years or so, we're like, did you remember how consistent Max can drive on situations like this?
Yeah.
And I always wanted to highlight, because that is something, even though it might sound boring to the outside, I, as a Formula One fan now, I got really exciting. Try to do this on a simulator, for example, where you don't even have tire wear. You can't do that. Luckily, if you hit it twice, not 15 times.
Yeah.
So
that's impressive. Yeah.
So and like I said, first sector times during the second stint, new tires, 35, 35, 35, 35, 35, 35, 35, 22. Okay. Yeah, so you can see my enthusiasm, and I get it if new fans don't get that, but I think that's not only testament to the car, but also to the driver in this situation.
Yeah, that's more the driver than the car. For consistency like that, that's like that. The way I'd certainly imagine it, and I'm sure if someone asked Max about it, it'd probably be about that. That to me suggests that he is like he's in the zone, as they talk about, and that is that he's like there's no distractions. He's just driving, and he's hitting the same braking points. He's hitting the same corners, the same apex. He's doing everything the same, everything perfectly, lap in, lap out.
But the tires get worse, so you have to change it every single lap, but still do it consistently the same.
Yeah.
End result.
Yeah.
And also after the race, I was like, I saw this incident and I saw what happened there. I saw those two fighting. He's just watching the screens while driving over the track as well.
Yeah.
I found that extremely impressive. So I would recommend, if you have the F1 app, which you now have, James, to check out the sectors put on the timing windows when you see stuff. When you're bored during a race where like nothing really happening, check out drivers like that. Also, another one that was really impressive for me was, we sat down quickly before, Sainz did a perfect race, but Charles fighting back with a car that was broken, because Charles was getting really consistent after lap 20 as well with a broken car, which got worse every single lap, but also was very consistent, like within 2 tenths for 10 or 15 rounds, something like that. So this was very impressive as well.
Yeah.
So,
look. I mean, look.
Sorry for geeking out there.
No, that's okay. I think you're highlighting a pretty good thing there, and that is, there are drivers in the field that are better than others, clearly, at that sort of thing. And I think whilst Leclerc might not be quite as fast as Verstappen, he is sort of in the same league. He's of that same kind of breed, I think, of driver. Perhaps not. I want to say attitude, but not like not like as in like, oh, Max has got an attitude kind of thing, but like the kind of maybe not their kind of temperament towards driving. Maybe I don't know quite the way to put it, but I think they have like slight personality differences, but as far as driving goes, they're pretty close, and I think that kind of showed at the start of 2022 as well, was it? Yeah, it was 2022, wasn't it? A little bit. It would be nice to see them having to fight more often.
Yeah, I want to say something about that for next week, though. Because I was doubting which topic it would be. Because I saw a lot of people saying the budget cap makes it so nobody can catch up to Red Bull. Red Bull built a whole new concept car with the same budget.
Yeah.
So
I mean, to be fair,
they not even can't catch up, but they're also going away with it. They're stepping away from it with the same budget limitations. And I don't think that's necessarily a fair assessment. Like, yes, if you control a limited amount of it, yes, you probably get closer, but still, the others are not even. You're not even not getting closer, but the others are sprinting away from you. I think that's also an impressive feature.
The thing is, last year, like, how many upgrades did they really bring last year? They didn't bring a lot, did they?
2.
Yeah. So last year they basically did nothing. They could have like spent money on upgrades that were actually for this year, that they claimed were for last year, and then said we didn't end up needing it or using it. So there's I'm pretty sure there'll be ways around for them to have, planned for this year, even during last year when they, it was pretty obvious right from the start of the season. They had the car that everyone else would hope to have at the end of the season, but they had it from the start, and that's why they didn't really need to bring any upgrades last season. But yeah, they're like the budget thing.
I know you want to discuss it every single week, so that's why I want to toss that teaser in there.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be one of the focus points. But I think that was one where I just want to don't think it's gonna change too much though, because you not only need to catch up, you need to get in front of them.
Yeah,
and that's where unlimited money helps. But I do think I feel a little bit bad that it's not only I get a fast engine or a fast car, or it's just also perfect storm Red Bull has going for them. And although people like, it's not like, I think Ferrari is the only one that's actually sort of showing that they're making steps forward, but the others aren't that much improving, right? And that's where I'm sort of like, everyone else was so close this week, and this is an outlier circuit, so I would wait like 2-3 seconds. After Australia, we have had a sort of a good mix for tracks. But
Ferrari's takeaway after Bahrain was that they were only 25 seconds behind this year compared to however much further behind they were last year.
But, well, last year they were also 20-second difference, I think, not 22 point something. So, but it's like, that was big. But I think between the Ferraris, the Mercedes, the Austins, the McLarens, there's not too much of a difference, regularly speaking. And I think it's just Red Bull just outperforms everyone else. But besides that, it's the closest we've ever had. And that's more of the issue.
Maybe. We'll see going into other races. I think it is probably going to be quite close between like second, third, fourth, and possibly even fifth. I think Aston Martin are actually not in too bad of a position. And again, maybe this circuit is a bit of an outlier for them. They're certainly doing better than I thought they would. To start the season.
And me, yeah.
But I get what you're saying, and I agree with it to some extent. But I also do understand that it's a very hard sell to try and tell people like, well, you just got to accept that first place is going to be like, you already know who's going to win first place. Look at second place and look for or third place or fourth place and look for the excitement there. I mean, there's times last year when it was that much of a procession, the cameras were looking at the fights for like 12th, 13th and 14th positions and stuff like that. And it's like, there aren't even any points at play there. It's like, it's nice racing, but it's not...
True.
There's nothing at stake. It's not interesting other than it's like, oh, wow, he made a pretty good move there. That's a nice move. Yeah, be nicer if it meant something. And obviously winning is the ultimate thing that it could mean in a race. Like that's what everyone races for, is to win. So I think, unfortunately, I was a little bit optimistic that there might have been a bit more competition towards the front of the field this year. That's obviously, it's pretty clearly not going to be the case already. I do think Red Bull have the chance of the clean sweep this year.
Well, an incident is easy to happen, though. So.
It is. It was easy to happen last year, and it didn't. I mean, to be fair, there was a bit of a perfect storm last year with that kind of luck, with like no reliability issues, no punctures, no bad timing of flags, red flags, safety car, whatever.
And Max had no reason winning Las Vegas, and he still did.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of exceptional performances which normally, and he only did because Russell crashed out. And there's things like that which just happened to be hitting as well.
He did have a bit of a perfect storm last year. Red Bull in general had it. So it's not easy, and there's a lot of things that can crop up that can spoil that potential party for them. I very much doubt Singapore is going to be as much of an issue this year as it was last year. That's my prediction for later in the year.
I'm not going to watch Singapore. Going to think about it yet with 23 more races to go, James.
I know.
Talking about races to go, we have to go into our predictions for this week.
Yes, we do. Yeah, let's get into that.
Because it's time for not the only track I really suck at, but one of the worst track for me when I do it on the sim. Going to Jeddah.
I love it.
I know. That's
really
probably
like
one
it.
of the reasons I don't really like it.
I don't like to watch it. I don't think it's a great track.
Don't
to
chase
watch.
everyone away now, mate. You're already telling them I don't like watching it, and I know who's going to win it.
But well, to be fair, I might have more appreciation for it this year, because the first time I ever drove it, like in a video game, was more than halfway through last season. It was when last year's F1 game came out, and I played it on that. And I really like that circuit, and I can understand why some of the drivers really like it, because it is super fast, super flowing, and just a lot of fun. Obviously, I'm not driving an actual Formula 1 car. I've just played a video game, but I'm having the time of my life on it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more at stake for the drivers, and there's been safety concerns raised about it in the past, but nothing's really come of that since we've been going there. So actually, to be fair, I am kind of looking forward to it, just because now that I've had a go at the track, and you see more than just the camera. You have to go at driving around it.
It's one track where you can't let go during a race. It's where you need 100% focus all the time, or you're done.
Oh yeah.
I think, well, I'm not going to say this again. This one doesn't finish with 20 cars ever. Just can't.
I completely agree with that. I think anyway, let's get into our predictions, because
let's get into predictions.
Bonus
James.
question was going to be around that.
Okay. Who's going to get pole?
Max.
Leclerc.
Okay.
And this one I can do. Who's going to win? I'm going to say Max.
Yeah. I'll say Perez.
Oh, Perez. Okay. King of the street circuit.
The street circuit king. Yeah. He won it last year.
Yeah, so it could happen. A bold move. If you win this one, I'm done already, mate. First DNF.
The Messiah. Sorry.
No, first did not finish.
First DNF.
Can't say Schumacher here, mate.
No. Let's go. I'm going to go the classic Stroll.
I'm going to go with the classic Sargent.
I feel a Stroll coming on here. It hasn't happened in a little while.
No, I'm not going to go with Sargent. I'm giving that man too little credit. Although I did press enter for confirm. So Sargent it is. Sorry, man. Your bonus question, which has to do with something with numbers. And the one closest wins. Each week, one of us picks a question which the other didn't hear yet, but the other one can answer first. This week, it's your.
Okay, so my bonus question for this week is, how many safety cars will we get? Not including virtual safety cars, actual safety cars. So if a safety car comes out and that then becomes a red flag, that still counts because that's a safety car coming out. It's basically how many times do we get the notice safety car deployed?
That's a cool question, actually. There's plenty of. I should ask her because there's plenty of VSCs over a couple of years, I think, that were there.
Yeah, I'm not counting VSCs.
So VSCs don't count.
Full safety cars only, yeah.
I think. Let's go for 2.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking 2. Please say 3. Please say 3. I want to say 2. Okay, I'll say 3. Yeah,
3. So 2 safety cars for me, 1 for you. But in the end, the result is always going to be 1 because there's only 1 safety car. No?
I see what you're saying. Yeah, very clever. No, there's 2. It could be maybe.
Then
the Aston and the Mercedes.
So 2 for John and 3 for James. So the one closest gets the bonus point. It's 3-1 for you. Let's see how much it is after this weekend. Another race on Saturday, which is so poorly timed for myself, I can't even see it live, unfortunately, due to family commitments. And with 22 more races after that one to go, I'm not willing to trade in my credits that early in the season. So I'll have to watch it back on Saturday evening, unfortunately. But that will be all right. James, enjoy. I do hope you will have fun. Check out our YouTube channel, I should say. It's not named yet, so you actually have to work for it to find it. But if you search for F1 in Focus, you should find it. Check out our, if I say so myself, our awesome new thumbnail designs. Yeah. I'm really happy with that as well.
Yeah, very, yeah.
And thank you all for listening last week. We appreciate it. We're back every single Tuesday after a race weekend, which means we're back next week, James.
We are indeed.
Definitely. Thank you for everything. See you next week, my friend, and enjoy the race.
See you later.